Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, this movie rules.
Yeah, man.
Listen, if you saw the trailers to this movie, you probably had worries if you'd seen Space Jam 2. Because Space Jam 2 is like the bad version of this movie, where it's, let's throw every IP we own into an animated thing just for the sake of doing it. And it's terrible and boring and nobody cares. So when you see that, like, oh, the Disney Plus movie with Chip and Dale is going to put in all these other characters, it's just going to be IP overload, you're like, oh no. And then you watch the movie and you realize, yes, it is a movie that has as many IP as they can feasibly put in it, but it's also a movie about movies that load as much IP as possible into it. So I'm not sure you legally allowed do that. It's like a brain melding puzzle to try and work out. Like, are you allowed to shove every IP you can possibly get into a single movie, but then make it a commentary on doing that? Maybe you're not. Who cares? This film is so good, though.
They on the continuum, it is a lot closer to Who Framed Roger Rabbit than it is to that or to Ready Player One or any of those IP Fest movies. I was telling you off the air, Garrett, while we were waiting on Mark, that I thought until I was watching this movie that it was a straight up, like, no bullshit, it was just a reboot of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
You were just like, yeah, sometimes some crimes do go slipping through the cracks.
Yeah.
Let's find out what happens again.
I loved Chip and Dale when I was a kid, and then I started seeing people give this good scores, and still without looking up the plot, I was like, right, I'm just going to throw this on the other night. And Mark, I don't know, did you see any trailers about this, or were you a Chip and Dale guy?
I didn't even know. I watched Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers back in the day, but I didn't know this was a thing until everyone started saying, "Hey, this is a thing that I'm going to watch."
So I think we can pretty safely explain the plot without spoiling the movie itself.
It's not a secret, like, the trailers are, because, like, this movie is a movie about a world where all the animated characters you see are not animated characters, they're actors.
But they are animated. The cartoons just live in the world.
Is it like a live action animated? Like,
it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit style, where it's live action with animation put in over it. Yeah. And, like, all different kinds of animation, including, like, stop motion silly putty and 2D and 3D.
Wow. Yeah.
And, like, there's a whole thing where Dale gets, like, the 3D upgrade surgery because
that's the thing. Yeah, you get CGI surgery in this world to, like, keep relevant. That's like the plastic surgery all the stars of cartoons get.
Is this film like commentary on the plastic surgery industry or something? Is this where we're at?
It is a commentary on a lot of things, my friend.
Many, many different things. As Dave just celebrates Benzema scoring. Oh no, he's offside. Never mind.
Boo. Yeah, it is like, it is a skewering and a lampooning of a lot of things all at once. You could call this movie a lot of things all at once. But it's essentially, Mark, that instead of Chip and Dale, instead of it just being Chip and Dale, it's that Chip and Dale were two cartoon chipmunk actors who split up in the 90s when one of them wanted to go solo. Dale was given a pilot for Double O Dale, a secret agent show.
Double O Dale.
And they split up and they weren't really talking to each other, but
Chip was selling insurance, Dale was desperately doing, like, Comic Cons trying to maintain relevance.
And he has gotten the CGI surgery, so it's really funny when they get back together because, like, one of them is still cartoon animated and one of them is full CGI. And it's really funny because it's like fate draws them back together when there is a crime wave in town where cartoons are being disappeared, basically. And one of them is their former co-star Monterey Jack from the show, the Australian guy who was obsessed with cheese. And it is believed, I think we can say this, that it is believed that what is happening to these cartoons is they are being trafficked and remolded to appear in knockoff movies being sold on the black market.
That's my favorite part. They're being kidnapped and forced to play like off-brand versions of themselves in knockoff straight to VHS and DVD movies.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of gags. There's a particularly great Winnie the Pooh one toward the end where they show all these knockoff versions of these characters. It's so good. Because like when you would say this is like a love letter to animation, you would think it's just because it has all the characters in it. Yeah. But no, it's a movie about animation. It's a commentary on animation, good animation, and honestly, particularly bad animation, including, I won't spoil one of the main characters in the movie, but it's someone who was very famously shoved out of his movie after a bad response to a trailer.
Oh my God.
And he's a main character in this movie. It's so good.
He is, like I thought it was just going to be like a 5-second gag, and then every time that character came back, I was like, fucking yes, this is incredible.
I think I need to see this film.
Oh,
it's legitimate. It's so funny. It's like a really funny movie.
Though, I'll say this: everyone I've seen that's reviewed it has only given it 3.5 stars. So,
like, it's not transcendently funny. Like, it doesn't move the art form along or anything like that. But it is like, you know, Garrett said it. As low a bar as it is the best Disney Plus movie there's been so far. It's a hoot, and it's only 90 odd minutes, and it's like,
as all films should be,
it's just a great caper, you know what I mean? And like the cast in it, that's what I couldn't get over. Like the cast is ridiculous. So it's directed by Akiva Schaffer, who is one of The Lonely Island. It stars as Chip and Dale respectively John Mulaney and Andy Samberg, and
excellent.
Then
I'm already on board.
In it as well, you've got Will Arnett, Eric Bana, Keegan Michael Key, Tim Robinson, Seth Rogen, J.K. Simmons. Like, the list goes on. And I will say, with Seth Rogen in particular, there is one gag involving Seth Rogen that I had to pause the film. I was laughing that hard.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good.
And they use like references and stuff really well. And like, to be fair to them, this is not just Disney intellectual property either. And that was apparently like one of the demands of the director, that he was like, I will not do this movie if it's just a Disney fest. Yeah. So there's tons of characters outside of the Disney universe in this movie as well, which I think is quite refreshing.
And it's one of those that I spent a long time after this movie thinking the legal wranglings that had to be done to license different characters, and in the way these different characters are used in this movie, it just, God bless whoever was making those deals. They did phenomenal work.
I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how does that work? Are they sitting around the table, like, you know, when you've got a fucking a wrestling crossover and they're trying to decide who's going over in each match? Like, is it what is the comparison to that of deciding who gets the right amount of screen time and what are they doing in those 2 minutes?
I gotta say as well, something I just remembered this second as well. All I will say is there is a 10 out of 10 Paul Rudd gag in this. I will not say whether it's about Paul Rudd, whether Paul Rudd is involved. There is a 10 out of 10 Paul Rudd gag that has a great payoff later in the movie as well.
Sure does.
Yeah. And there's I could have actually just watched a 10-minute montage of all the knockoff movies as well, like just the cover art for them that they have in this.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I really like this movie. If I rewatch this, don't be surprised if I go up to 4 with this. It's very, very good. It's very, very good.
And it's such a pleasant surprise, because you go in and you're like, first you hear Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and your mind probably does go to the cartoon.
Yep.
And then you watch the trailer and you see, oh, it's one of those, and you get deeply worried that it's just going to be the WWE, you know, old school Raw, where the entire joke is just the person is there. Yeah. And that this film couldn't be further from that, where they actually do write jokes about these characters instead of the joke just being the person being there.
Yeah. It's really well thought out. And I particularly, that night after I watched the movie, I was on YouTube and I saw maybe the greatest like media promotion for a film I've seen in ages. Have you seen the clips of John Mulaney and Andy Samberg on Jimmy Kimmel this week?
No, I haven't.
So they showed up to be on the show as guests, and then Jimmy Kimmel got COVID for the second time in 3 weeks, and they just went, fuck it, let's have John Mulaney and Andy Samberg host the show. So they do like a segment at the start. They both do the monologue together where they're doing like as many cheap plugs as possible for Chip and Dale, and about how they're definitely not angry that it's not in theaters. And then the next segment is I want to say it's John Mulaney interviewing Andy Samberg, and then the next segment they just do the same interview again, pretty much, but just they reverse who's doing what role.
Very good, very
and
good.
to the extent where they even show the same clip from the movie twice. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good bit. I enjoyed it. But yeah, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I cannot believe I'm recommending it as highly as I do, but here we are.
I spent like a day and a half in a haze like that, just being like, I cannot believe that movie was that enjoyable.
It's one of those. It had no right.
Yeah.
No right to be as good as it was, and I had a fantastic time with it.
I mean, what does that mean next? What's the next live action thing we're gonna get that, like, because honestly, from what you're saying, it would make more sense if there was like an Animaniacs thing. Like that feels more like the setting to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That for me is the biggest surprise of all of this, is like Chip and Dale Rangers is the IP used to do what this film is doing.
You know what could do a good meta reboot of itself nowadays, but they never will? Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
Yeah.
I knew you was going to say Freakazoid.
Of course, that's me. My DVDs of it are right there.